Hello everybody, welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today we are going to play around with some light fast waterproof ink. We're going to try to kind of mass in, tint our paper, dry it off, and then watercolor over it. So it's kind of an experiment. We had done this with the Black India Chinese ink. I did it with the Crimson. Let me show you all the bottle. Did it with the Crimson ink. And today we'll do that with, of course it has the label right over it, just the Dr. P.H. Martin's yellow. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby. It was about $5.99, and I used that 40% off coupon on there. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it, where else? Blick.com has it. A whole bunch of different places have it. And they sell it in these larger bottles. And they also have kind of a collection of smaller plastic bottles. So if it's something you find interesting, it might be worth buying the smaller plastic bottles. Anyway, so let's get started. We have the quarter sheet of Stonehenge Aqua here, and it is 140 pound, and it is the cold press. I don't know if I mentioned that. And let's pre-wet it so we could go wet and wet with the ink. And this will help stretch the paper. All right. Okay. So, while the paper absorbs this water, we'll grab one of these small sushi trays. You could pick them up from a Chinese supermarket, Asian market, for about 75 cents, maybe $1, $2. But they're really good for things that you don't want to contaminate your palette. So shake it up really good. I originally ordered this off of Amazon, but there's delays in shipment with the area that I'm in due to the storms all around us, and previously before this. So I was going to say Thursday, and we kind of just up and went to Hobby Lobby today, so I canceled that order. So anyway, so previously, okay, so here's the idea. We did one with Crimson, where we toned the whole paper, and that kind of gave a unifying color to it. The lemon yellow, I'm concerned about greens taking place in the sky with our cerulean blue or our ultramarine. So I think I'm going to kind of mass in the brightest yellows in this scene. And picture-wise, I'm just loosely looking at a picture on the side, and I could put that up on the Patreon if y'all would like. By the way, a whole bunch of different links down below. I would love for you to consider subscribing and following. There's also links to my Etsy account if there's ever any paintings that you like. Also, Patreon if you'd like to support me. Yeah, I think that's everything. Oh, of course, you're always allowed to follow along with these tutorials. And if somebody ever offers to buy one of the tutorials from you, anything that you painted following along, you have my express permission to go ahead and sell it. I want you guys to succeed and have money for art supplies. because they really add up over time. That's kind of my little plea of support at the beginning. So lemon yellow, kind of blocking in, putting some spots. And one of the reasons I up and went and got this lemon yellow today was that with watercolor, and I'll say it in every video, is that lemon yellow for me just really goes green really quick. It mixes with anything for me, and I can't get that pure yellow. So this is kind of a roundabout way as well for me to get that in these paintings. And I'm not too worried about raw sienna over this, or of course light red oxide or alizarin. You probably get some beautiful oranges when we paint those on top. It's mainly just our blues and getting those greens to happen. I don't really want that in the sky too much. I think if you paint a sky, you could put a Prussian blue and work your way up, and you kind of have that little greener tint, but I think that this would be too much. I'm also tempted to maybe take a little bit of blue ink and put that in the sky as well, or the crimson itself. Why don't we do that? So here's the crimson ink. Let's get a good shake going. Sometimes if you go and you pick it up off the shelf, you'll look and see that there's a lot of separation that takes place in the bottle. So be wary of that. Okay. I want more of a wash. And this also lets you see the crimson on there. My paper is drying quite quick, so what we're going to do is also grab a little bit of the blue ink, and this is from the same company, the Dr. P.H. Martin's, and they just call it straight blue. And I looked today to see if they had any cerulean or anything like that, but they didn't have that. At least they didn't have it on the shelf, so I might have to look online. Okay, so this is the blue. So this experiment has turned into kind of massing in with India inks that are pigmented. We're going to let this dry. Well, in fact, we're going to dry it using the blow dryer. But this is kind of a blocking in with pigmented India ink. Whenever you use this, you want to make sure you dry your brushes, clean your brushes really well, as it will ruin brushes. You don't want to use it in fountain pens. This ink will mess those up. You also want to, if you use dip pens, you want to make sure you clean them off, but they're meant for dip pens. So what we'll do is dry it off. We'll use the blow dryer for this. And then we'll set up our palette and we'll talk about colors. So if you have earbuds on, watch your ears as we pass this blow dryer across it. It should take about 10 seconds. I'm looking at the live stream of this, and you can see how vibrant these inks are. They're very, very beautiful. And I think some people use them in and of themselves for art. I think there's, what's his name? I'm not sure what country he's from. He's from an Asian country. His first name's Teo, I think. Teoh. He has a lot of reviews for paper, fountain pens, inks, different drawing materials, watercolor sets, and I believe he has a video on the sets for the inks themselves, and I believe he might have a drawing for it, and he may have mixed the colors that he needed from them. So there's a lot of information out there from that gentleman on this brand of inks. Anyway, so I'm going to set up my palette, and the reason I didn't do that before this video is that previously I discovered in the last one that the dry off phase and then a re-wetting, immediately re-wetting, caused an issue. I believe it was stemming from the fact that we had just used the blow dryer, so the paper was still warm, and then passing another wash over it, it dried too quickly because of that temperature change. So I'm just going to use this time to put out a little bit of color and talk about it. We have the ultramarine, which has the granulating effects, and it looks really nice on top of our crimson. However, cerulean, and this is a cheap cerulean by the Cotman brand, the cerulean next to the alizarin, it just really worked fantastic. It looked like if you were going to get an ice cream that was cotton candy flavored and they mix it with the pink, yellow, and the blue, this would look like that combination. Raw sienna looked good over the crimson. We use a lot of raw sienna in the sky, so we'll see how that looks with the yellow. Like I said earlier, I'm not too worried about that interacting with the yellow too much. We have the light red oxide already out. We already have the alizarin out. I think those two will be like kind of major players in these regions. I had mentioned how I wanted to stay away from getting potential greens with washing over that. And I think we should be good. The paper feels cool, which means it might still be a little bit damp, but it's not warm, so we shouldn't have too much issues. And so eventually, I would like to be able to start like editing these videos so that we don't have to see the dry off phase and whatnot. But currently, my computer, if I was to just like crop a video, like not do anything else to it, just cut off the first 5 minutes, and just go in and click, it takes the computer hours, if not a day, to just do that render. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if that's common for computers in general or what. You know, on a cell phone, if you take like a 1 minute, 2 minute video and you cut it down, it processes it within 20 seconds. So something going on. Color wise, I think we're good with the palette. We could put out a little more sap green if we want. I did allow for excessive, to be honest, the excessive yellow. If I do bring down a green, blue down here, I think that would allow for a little bit of tree effect. So hopefully we could use that to an advantage if we have that happen. And sap green is just a good convenience color, so we'll have that. So let's get started. We're going to take our hake, which we're using. We have fresh water. I learned from a previous video that I needed 2 containers of water so that I didn't do a quick run to the kitchen. Here. I've also learned to let the cats in the art room before I start a video now. And the door is slightly open, so Harrison will probably walk out in a moment. He's just exploring. My fiance was saying once the room no longer is a novelty for them, they probably won't have too much issue with coming in. So trying to get a good wash. I see that it's not really pulling up that ink underneath, which is really the main goal here. To have that waterproof ink and not have too much interaction with the water and the different layers. I just want to make sure it's nice and coated. You don't have to apply it this gently. I'm just kind of do it talking, thinking. Alright, I have a nice puddle, like a super wet layer of water here. So hopefully we have no issues like we did with the alizarin crimson experiment. So let's start things off with some raw sienna on top of this. We'll actually be able to see how it interacts with the alizarin, the yellow, and the blue. And we'll allow for a little bit of cloud effects. And one of the issues in the previous experiment was that with this second wash, the paper was drying too quickly, that I had to kind of wetten things up, and doing so caused backruns and cauliflowers, which I am not talented enough to turn into actual good looking effects. Okay, so that's some raw sienna. Very light wash of raw sienna. Let's grab some cerulean. Need another paper towel. Because the cerulean just looks so beautiful over the alizarin. And we'll allow ourselves to play on the side. Here the mat would cover, and you could see a little bit of hints where it wants to then create a green. So I will have to avoid that unless we're on the horizon line, where a green would be relatively acceptable. Okay, so the horizon line will be about here. Okay, so that answers that question. Ultramarine blue. Very a word that I've been using lately, these paintings, very high key, very bright and light looking, which is contrary to my normal painting style. Here's the ultramarine over some yellow ink, a little bit of green effects, just not too noticeable. It's noticeable, but it's not like the end of the day. I think some people would like that, and this may work for some of y'all. Okay, let's mix. Well, let's grab that alizarin. play with that on the horizon, the sky. Which gives us that nice sky effect. We get oranges taking place. That's really nice. Bring it down into the water. That's pretty. Let's rinse that off. Let that off. Let's grab light red oxide. So with the light red oxide, it's kind of closer to a vermilion color, or cad red light, something like that. That's what you can kind of compare it to. And playing with that over it works just as well. It's a little bit opaque, so you have to just be careful. Let that light source, let our light source be right here, kind of a small pinpoint. It's very colorful, very high key. I guess you would say quite impressionist. Alright, is there anything else we want to play with on the palette? Let's mix. Let's get a little gray in the sky. I'll play with that. So Payne's gray. So we can do Payne's gray with the alizarin. That was a mixture that's common by the artist. Well, he's deceased now. Ron Ranson, for a little bit of mauvish clouds in the sky. So we'll kind of chase that around. Our wet and wet, we're still a lot wetter, so I think that kind of delayed pause between doing that wash helped us out. I feel like we're getting some good layering in the sky. I don't know how well it's showing up in the camera. I mean, I could see it right there, but not getting too much of the depth in the video, but visually I'm getting it. Almost looks like remember that gum, fruit stripe gum. Blech. Very colorful. Oh, Harrison. Let's see. I'm going to increase the pigment. Let's start putting a horizon in. We'll have our landmass, just our classic shape. This way. So the raw sienna is pushing it back quite a bit, which is nice. So if it's necessary, you can push these back. We'll do our landmass here, and then we'll come back behind. So we'll do our S-shape composition. So simple composition, and we'll build up. Light red oxide, ultramarine blue. This gives a nice purple for a distance. We'll use to kind of set back trees and whatnot on our horizon. This mixture was used a lot, or talked about a lot by James Fletcher Watson in his books. He's deceased as well. Really good painter. I would recommend getting a book on James Fletcher Watson, one of his painting ones. I'll have to do a review of some books one day. Ron Ranson has a lot of good books. So did Zoltan Szabo. I think he was Hungarian. Well, I think Ron Ranson had the most books out there. But Zoltan Szabo had a lot. And he was, had a lot of great, like, experiments. Just wet and wet. He would demonstrate something in a book, and then from there say, okay, now little homework assignment, take this shape and rearrange this composition so it's more appealing, or to draw the eye a little bit closer to the left, or things like that. Yeah. So I think he was definitely an educator. Same thing with Ron Ranson. He would go around the country, or I think about around the world, and have painting sessions, seminars. Okay, I want to build up the darks in this painting, and that's one area that I've always struggling with. I can't get it dark enough. And with watercolor, let me mention this a bit, it's a drying shift that takes place. So even though it looks dark right now, it will lighten up. The reason being is that we have both the pigment, the gum arabic, and water on there, and the light is refracting through it. Oop, this light just went out. Now it's back on. Must have accidentally hit the timer button on it. It has a timer button. I haven't learned how to use it. I think it's about like a 30-minute thing. That might be a good idea. At the start of the video, press that, and then from there, you'd be like, okay, we are 30 minutes in now. Let's start going to the next stage. So I know with some of these videos, they can get a little rambly. Some people like longer videos, some people want short videos. And I just want you guys to enjoy the videos and for me to experiment and learn in the process. So let's take our rigger. We're wet and wet. This will go in light and it'll dry even lighter. We did put sap green out, so let's grab that rather than playing with the light lemon yellow. Just, you know, a convenience color, making things easy. I just don't want the same green all throughout. So I could use the lemon yellow to push it in another direction to get a variety. And you can also use the ultramarine to push it, as well as your reds. So I mean, you can mix it with anything. Let's see. Darken up that corner. Let's see, let's take an overall look. So we dealt with the issue that we had in the previous video, where if I'm looking at an angle, you can still see that this is quite wet. Let's lift it up and see if you can catch that angle glare, and you can kind of see some of the dampness that's still there in those spots. Yeah, right there. So we were able to maintain that. Some areas did dry quicker, but not really stressed out about that. I'm happy with what we've had so far. Color wise, I didn't do a dry off yet. You can see the granulation of the ultramarine. The spots where we had green on the sides, I just allowed that to just have foliage on top of it. In fact, I'll take a little carb and do a little scraping, get a little texture in while we talk. This was our Payne's Gray alizarin mixture for a little darker cloud. I do like the beginning of depth in the sky here. Alizarin crimson paint went very well over this. Let's see. So did the light red oxide. So the sky worked out really good. Like, all the colors worked really good if you thought about where you put them. Because like right here you see a little green. It's not really showing up too much in the video. Let me just go closer. Hopefully it doesn't make your eyes go all wonky. But you might be able to see a little bit of green with that effect there. But it's interesting. Yeah, everything worked out really well with it. Like I said, it's kind of a higher key than I usually paint in. So let's do a dry off and we'll see the color, the drying shift that takes place. We might leave it like this. We'll see. Okay, so we are pretty dry all the way throughout. We did have a little bit of a shift take place. There are some areas that are lighter that we could darken up some, but I think if I do that, I'll do it off camera so we could just end the video here. I really like the way this came out. That was very good experiment. I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but oh man, I'm very pleased, very excited with this. So let's sign it. Let's put a matte over it to see what it looks like underneath the matte. Of course, like I said in the beginning, you guys are welcome to follow along, and if it's, you know, if anybody ever wants to buy it from you, feel free to sell it. You have my permission. And I would love for you guys to consider supporting me on either Patreon or YouTube, etc. So, I hope you enjoyed, and you'll have a great day. Bye.